Dr. Gray stared at his data screen in disbelief. For the 10th time that night, he ran the calculations again. The numbers couldn't be right, yet they remained stubbornly unchanged. In his 30 years as the Galactic Empire's leading astronomer, he had never seen anything like this. The Sol system's star was behaving strangely, very strangely. He looked out through the massive window of his observatory station, floating at the edge of imperial space. Stars twinkled in the darkness, each one carefully mapped, measured, and classified. The Empire prided itself on knowing everything about every star in its territory. But this was different. "Computer, show me the energy readings from Sol again," he said, his voice trembling slightly. The holographic display lit up, showing a complex web of data. At first glance, it looked like readings from any normal main sequence star, but hidden in the numbers was something impossible. The star was pulsing, not like normal stellar pulsations, but in perfect mechanical patterns. Dr. Gray reached for his communication device. He had to report this to the Imperial Council, even if it meant interrupting their monthly meeting. His hand hovered over the call button as doubt crept in. The Sol system was classified as primitive, its dominant species barely able to reach their own moon. Warning the Council about strange readings from such an insignificant star might end his career. But the patterns were too precise to ignore. Taking a deep breath, he pressed the button. The air in front of him shimmered, and suddenly he faced the stern faces of the Imperial Council, their holographic forms floating before him. "This better be important, Dr. Gray," said High Counselor Blake, his expression showing clear annoyance at the interruption. "My apologies for the disturbance, High Counselor," Dr. Gray began, trying to keep his voice steady. "But I've detected an anomaly in the Sol system that requires immediate attention." "The Sol system," another counselor scoffed. "That backwater region with the primitive bipeds." "Yes, Counselor. Their star. It's showing signs of artificial modification." The chamber fell silent. High Counselor Blake leaned forward, his holographic form flickering slightly. "Impossible. Our latest survey showed they barely understand basic space travel. They couldn't possibly have the technology to modify a star." Dr. Gray sent his data to the Council's displays. "Look at these energy patterns. They're too regular, too precise to be natural. Something or someone has modified this star, and the modifications are becoming more active." The Council members studied the data, their expressions changing from dismissal to concern, then back to dismissal. "Dr. Gray," High Counselor Blake said finally, "while we appreciate your diligence, these readings are likely a result of instrument malfunction. The humans are primitive. They fight among themselves, pollute their planet, and can barely reach their own satellite. They pose no threat to the Empire." "But sir—" "Enough." Blake's voice echoed through the connection. "You will recalibrate your instruments and cease wasting the Council's time with impossible theories about primitive species." The transmission cut off, leaving Dr. Gray alone with his data and his fears. He turned back to his window, looking in the direction of the Sol system. It was too far to see with the naked eye, but he knew it was there, pulsing with impossible energy patterns that nobody wanted to believe. He began typing quickly on his data pad, documenting everything. If the Council wouldn't listen, he would at least make sure there was a record. Something was happening in the Sol system, something that defied Imperial understanding, and he had a terrible feeling that the Empire's dismissal of this primitive system would soon prove to be a massive mistake. As if responding to his thoughts, his instruments began beeping urgently. The energy patterns from Sol had just doubled in intensity. The warning had been given. Whether anyone would heed it remained to be seen. The Imperial fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system without warning. 50 massive warships, each larger than Earth's biggest city, slipped out of faster-than-light travel like dark shadows against the stars. Their arrival sent every telescope and radar station on Earth into a frenzy of activity. In the United Defense Force headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains, Commander Stone watched the main screen with unusual calmness, Red dots representing the alien ships blinked ominously as they moved closer to Earth's orbit. "Sir," one of his officers called out, "they're broadcasting a message on all frequencies." Stone nodded. "Let's hear what our visitors have to say." The screen flickered to life, showing a tall figure in an ornate uniform. The alien looked almost human, except for their slightly gray skin and entirely black eyes. "I am Ambassador Reed of the Galactic Empire," the figure announced in perfect English. "We come to offer Earth a place within our great civilization." Stone straightened his uniform. The command center fell silent as he stepped in front of the camera. "Welcome to the Sol system, Ambassador. I am Commander Stone of Earth's United Defense Force. We're honored by your visit." The ambassador's expression shifted slightly, showing surprise at Stone's composed response. "Most primitive species usually panicked at first contact. Commander, your calm is admirable. Though perhaps you don't fully understand your situation. Please, enlighten us," Stone replied politely. Ambassador Reed's face hardened. "Very well. The Galactic Empire has already positioned weapon platforms throughout your solar system. Your primitive defenses are useless. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to serve as a protectorate of the Empire. Refuse, and we will demonstrate our power." The command center remained strangely quiet. No panic, no fear. Stone even allowed himself a small smile. "Ambassador," he said, "we appreciate your offer. However, I suggest you check with your scientific division about some recent readings from our sun. It might influence your decisions." Reed's face showed annoyance. "Are you referring to the nonsense reports from Dr. Gray? We've dismissed those readings as equipment malfunction. Now, what is your answer? Will Earth submit to Imperial rule?" Stone looked at his watch, then at one of his officers, who nodded slightly. "Ambassador, we request 1 hour to consult with Earth's leaders about your generous offer." "You have 30 minutes, Reed snapped, and the transmission ended. As soon as the screen went dark, Stone turned to his communications officer. "Get me Dr. Wells at Project Helios." A few seconds later, a woman's voice filled the command center. "Project Helios is ready, Commander. All systems are green. Should we proceed?" Stone looked around the room at his officers. They all knew this day would come. For generations, they had prepared for it. "Begin the awakening sequence, Doctor. It's time to show the Empire why they shouldn't judge a species by its apparent technology level." "Yes, sir. Initiating sequence now." Through the special screens in the command center, they could see their sun beginning to change. Tiny points of light, too regular to be natural, started appearing on its surface. The Imperial ships hadn't noticed yet. They were too busy positioning themselves for an attack, their weapons charging, ready to force Earth's surrender. Stone's communication officer spoke up. "Sir, the Empire is hailing us again. 20 minutes early." "Of course they are," Stone said with a knowing smile. "They've probably decided to skip the diplomatic approach entirely." He straightened his uniform again. "Put them through. Let's watch their faces when they realize what they've walked into." As Ambassador Reed's image appeared again, the first signs of the sun's transformation became visible even to the Imperial ships. Their sensors must have been going crazy. The real first contact was about to begin, and it wouldn't go the way the Empire expected. 5 miles beneath the Earth's surface, Dr. Wells stood in a chamber that shouldn't exist. The walls were made of a strange, smoothly polished black metal that seemed to drink in light. No one knew who had built it or exactly how old it was. The only certainty was that it had been waiting here, deep underground, long before recorded history. "All systems are ready," her assistant called out from one of the curved control panels that lined the chamber. The screens above showed streams of symbols that had taken generations of scientists to understand. Dr. Wells walked to the center of the room, where a circular platform rose from the floor. On it sat what looked like a simple crystal sphere about the size of a basketball. But it was anything but simple. "Begin power-up sequence," she ordered. The chamber hummed to life, lines of soft blue light spreading across the black walls like veins. As the systems activated, Dr. Wells thought about the day they had found this place, 50 years ago. A mining operation had accidentally broken through to it, revealing the first proof that humanity's history was far different from what anyone had imagined. The sphere started to glow with a warm, golden light. Around it, holographic displays sprang to life, showing images of the sun, their sun, but not as anyone had ever seen it before. The surface was covered in intricate patterns, like circuit boards etched into living fire. "Doctor," one of her team called out, "we're receiving the first response signals from the Guardian." Dr. Wells nodded. She had waited her entire career for this moment. "Send the activation codes." The crystal sphere pulsed, each beat sending waves of energy through the chamber. On the screens, they could see the sun's surface beginning to shift and change, responding to their signal. "Message from Commander Stone," another technician announced. "The Imperial fleet is in position. They're demanding immediate surrender." "Perfect timing," Dr. Wells said quietly. She placed her hand on the crystal sphere, feeling its warmth. The ancient texts they had discovered in this facility had explained everything: why humanity had been left here, who had protected them, and what slept within their sun. They weren't primitive at all. They were the descendants of a civilization so advanced it could turn stars into guardians. Their ancestors had hidden them here, protected by a sleeping giant, until they were ready to rejoin the galactic community on their own terms. "Power levels at 100%, her assistant reported. "Ready for final activation." Dr. Wells took a deep breath. "Send the wake-up call." The sphere blazed with brilliant light, and the chamber filled with a sound like distant bells. On the screens, the sun's surface erupted with geometric patterns of pure energy, each one precise and purposeful. "Message from the Imperial fleet," a technician called out. They're asking what we're doing to the sun." Dr. Wells smiled. "Tell Commander Stone he can inform our visitors that we're simply waking up our old friend." The chamber shook slightly as waves of energy pulsed through the Earth. In orbit, Imperial sensors were probably going crazy trying to understand what was happening. Their mighty fleet would be detecting power readings that broke every law of physics they knew. "Guardian consciousness is awakening," her assistant reported, excitement clear in his voice. "It's beginning to unfold." Through the facility's special sensors, they could see it happening. The surface of the sun was splitting apart like a flower blooming, revealing the massive entity that had slept within. Humanity's guardian was awakening, and the galaxy was about to learn that appearances could be very deceiving. "Send signal to all Earth defense stations," Dr. Wells ordered. "Tell them to stand by. The real first contact is about to begin." The crystal sphere pulsed one final time, and she felt a vast consciousness brush against her mind. After eons of sleep, the Guardian was awake, and Earth's moment had finally come. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship, Ambassador Reed watched in horror as the primitive solar system's sun began to transform. The steady yellow star was now covered in pulsing blue lines that formed impossible patterns across its surface. "Get me Commander Stone immediately," he shouted. The human's face appeared on the main screen, still wearing that annoyingly calm smile. "Is there a problem, Ambassador?" Stone asked politely. "What are you doing to your star?" Reed demanded. "Stop this at once." "I'm afraid we can't do that," Stone replied. "The awakening sequence can't be stopped once it begins. I suggest you move your fleet back. The Guardian doesn't like to be crowded when it wakes up." Reed's black eyes widened. "The Guardian?" Before Stone could answer, every instrument on the Imperial ships went crazy. Energy readings shot off the charts. Alarms blared throughout the fleet as the sun's surface began to crack open like a massive egg. In Earth's underground command center, Commander Stone watched the events unfold on special screens designed to view the Guardian's true form. The surface of the sun peeled back in perfectly geometric sections, revealing something that defied description. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, The Imperial fleet is pulling back. Their weapons are powering down. Stone nodded. They're finally showing some wisdom. Status of the awakening. The Guardian's consciousness is fully active. Dr. Wells reports the ancient interface is working perfectly. On the screens, they could see it clearly now. The Guardian was rising from its solar cocoon. Its true form was a massive creature of pure energy and strange matter, its body marked with the same geometric patterns that had appeared on the sun's surface. It was larger than 1,000 planets, its true size hidden for millennia within the star's core. In the Project Helios facility, Dr. Wells and her team worked frantically at their controls. The crystal sphere now floated above its pedestal, surrounded by streams of golden light. "Containment field is holding," she announced. "The Guardian's power output is stable." Suddenly, everyone on Earth heard a voice in their minds. It was deep and ancient, yet somehow warm and familiar. "My children," it said, "you have grown strong and wise. The time of hiding is over." In orbit, the Imperial ship's crews heard nothing, but they could see everything. Their mighty fleet, capable of destroying whole worlds, looked like toys before the vast being emerging from Earth's sun. Ambassador Reed's hands shook as he opened a channel to his homeworld. "High Council, we have a situation. The humans, they're not primitive at all. Their sun, it's alive." Back in the underground command center, Stone received a priority message. "Sir, the Imperial fleet is broadcasting a general retreat order. They're preparing to jump out of the system. Contact Ambassador Reed," Stone ordered. "Tell him running away would be a mistake. The Guardian wants to talk." The ambassador's face appeared on screen again, his gray skin now several shades paler. "Talk? That thing wants to talk." "Of course," Stone replied. "We've been waiting ages to properly introduce ourselves to the galaxy. The Guardian is humanity's protector, not our weapon. All we ask is to be treated as equals." Through the special sensors, they could see the Guardian fully now. Its vast form stretched out across space, geometric patterns shifting and flowing across its surface, like living circuits made of light and energy. The being that had posed as their sun for countless generations was finally showing its true self. The real first contact was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Guardian's vast form filled the space where Earth's sun had once been. Its body was a masterpiece of light and energy, with patterns that seemed to fold in on themselves in impossible ways. Even the most advanced Imperial sensors couldn't fully process what they were seeing. In the depths of Project Helios, Dr. Wells monitored the ancient control systems as they adjusted to the Guardian's full awakening. The crystal sphere now floated high above its pedestal, spinning slowly as it channeled power beyond human understanding. "Energy levels are beyond measurement," her assistant reported, his voice filled with awe. "But the containment is holding perfectly." The ancients really did think of everything. Through their special viewing screens, they could see the Guardian beginning to move. Its massive form shifted in ways that made normal space bend around it. Imperial ships scattered like leaves in a storm, desperate to get out of its way. Then it spoke again, its thoughts reaching every human mind simultaneously. "For 10,000 generations, I have watched and waited," the Guardian's voice echoed in their thoughts. "I have seen you grow from cave dwellers to stargazers. I have watched your wars and your peace, your failures and your triumphs. Now, at last, you are ready." In the command center, Commander Stone received urgent messages from every major city on Earth. Millions of people were reporting the same experience, a sense of ancient wisdom and protective power touching their minds. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "the Imperial fleet is requesting permission to maintain their current position. They're asking for mercy." Stone allowed himself a small smile. "Tell them that they have nothing to fear if they come in peace. The Guardian is not a weapon. It's a protector." On the Imperial flagship, Ambassador Reed watched in stunned silence as the Guardian's geometric patterns shifted and flowed. Each movement seemed to ripple through the fabric of space itself. His weapons officers had already reported that their most powerful planet-killer bombs would be like throwing pebbles at a mountain. "Impossible," he whispered. "All our scans showed a primitive star system. How could we have missed this?" The answer came directly into his mind, as the Guardian chose to speak to the Imperial fleet for the first time. "You saw what you expected to see," the vast being's thoughts echoed in their heads. "Like many before you, you mistook patience for weakness and preparation for primitiveness." In Project Helios, Dr. Wells watched the power readings with tears in her eyes. Everything their ancestors had planned, every secret they had hidden in humanity's DNA, had led to this moment. "Doctor," one of her technicians called out, "we're receiving data streams from the Guardian. It's our true history, everything the ancients couldn't leave in physical form." The Guardian's voice touched their minds again, this time sharing images of humanity's past. They saw their ancestors, a civilization so advanced they could reshape stars. They watched as those ancestors chose to hide their children, humanity, on a protected world, guarded by one of their greatest achievements, a living star. "Your ancestors knew that true civilization cannot be built on conquest," the Guardian explained to all who could hear. "They gave you time to grow, to learn, to become who you were meant to be. Now you must choose your path forward." Commander Stone straightened his uniform and opened a channel to the Imperial fleet. "Ambassador Reed, I believe it's time we had a real discussion about humanity's place in the galaxy." The Guardian's patterns shifted again, creating a space of calm in the chaos of its awakening. The time for hiding was over. Humanity's true first steps into the galactic community were about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same. Admiral West paced the bridge of the Imperial command ship, watching the impossible scene before him. The Guardian's massive form made his mighty fleet look like dust motes before a hurricane. Reports were flooding in from across the Empire as news of the event spread through faster-than-light communications. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving emergency messages from 17 different colony worlds. They're declaring independence from the Empire." West's gray face turned even paler. Of course, this would happen. The moment word got out that a supposedly primitive world had power that made the Empire's greatest weapons look like children's toys, everything would change. "Admiral," Ambassador Reed's voice shook as he spoke, "the High Council is demanding we take action. They say if we show weakness now, the entire Empire will crumble." West looked at the Guardian's vast form on his view screen. Its geometric patterns had settled into a steady pulse, but even that gentle movement sent waves of energy that their sensors couldn't understand. "And what exactly does the Council expect us to do?" West asked quietly. "Attack that." Before Reed could answer, more urgent messages arrived. The number of worlds declaring independence had doubled. Colonies that had suffered under Imperial rule for generations were rising up, inspired by Earth's revelation. In Earth's command center, Commander Stone watched the chaos unfold through their intelligence feeds. "The Empire is falling apart," he reported to Dr. Wells through their secure channel. Their whole system was built on fear of their superior weapons. Now that something far more powerful exists, now they know how it feels to be the primitive ones. Dr. Wells replied from Project Helios. She was still monitoring the ancient systems as they stabilized the Guardian's awakening. "The Guardian is showing me more of our history. Our ancestors faced the same choice the Empire faces now." The Guardian's thoughts touched their minds again. But this time, it reached out to the Imperial fleet as well. Long ago, it shared, humanity's ancestors ruled the stars through force, much like your empire. They learned, through great cost, that true civilization cannot be built on fear. Admiral West felt the weight of history pressing down on him. His fleet's weapons were still armed, but using them would be suicide. Yet letting this situation continue would mean the end of everything he had served for centuries. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, 30 more worlds have declared independence. The Empire, It's falling apart, sir. West closed his eyes. In his long military career, he had never faced a situation like this. The Empire had always been the strongest force in the galaxy. Now, in the space of a few hours, that had changed forever. Admiral West, Commander Stone's voice came through the main channel. I have a proposal for you, one that might save lives on all sides. West looked at the human's image on his screen. I'm listening. The Guardian shows us that power doesn't have to mean destruction. Help us build something new, something better than the Empire. A galactic community based on cooperation, not fear. In Project Helios, Dr. Wells watched the power readings stabilize as the Guardian's patterns shifted into a new configuration. The ancient being was ready for whatever came next, whether it was peace or conflict. Ambassador Reed stepped forward. Admiral, we can't possibly. But West raised his hand, silencing him. He looked at his tactical display, showing more and more worlds declaring independence with each passing minute. The empire he had served was already dead. The only question was what would replace it. Commander Stone, he said finally, tell me more about this proposal of yours. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance, waiting for his decision. 1 month after the Guardian's awakening, representatives from 100 worlds gathered in Earth's first orbital assembly hall. The massive space station hung in Earth's orbit, carefully positioned so everyone could see both the Guardian's magnificent form and the planet it had protected for so long. Commander Stone stood at the main podium, looking out at the gathered species. Former Imperial worlds sat next to Earth's delegates, all equal for the first time in galactic history. Admiral West sat in the front row, no longer wearing his Imperial uniform, but the new dark blue clothes of the Transitional Council. Today marks a new chapter in our shared history, Stone began. 1 month ago, many of you saw Earth as a primitive world, barely worth noticing. Now we gather as equals, ready to build something new. The Guardian's patterns shifted slightly, sending waves of gentle light through space. Through their shared mental connection, all humans could feel its approval. In Project Helios, Dr. Wells monitored the ancient systems that helped maintain harmony between humanity and their protector. The crystal sphere had settled into a steady glow, marking a perfect balance of energies. The ancient records are fully translated, she reported through her comm link to Stone. Everything our ancestors left for us, all their knowledge and wisdom, is ready to be shared. Stone nodded and continued his speech. Our ancestors learned that true strength lies not in weapons or fear, but in unity and wisdom. They left us the Guardian not as a weapon, but as a teacher. Now we offer their knowledge to all. Ambassador Reed, who had chosen to stay on Earth as the Empire's representative, stood up. The former Empire accepts Earth's generous offer. We have much to learn about true civilization. The gathering watched as the first data transfers began. Screens around the assembly hall showed the ancient knowledge being shared. Clean energy technology, medical advances, and secrets of space travel that the Empire had never imagined. But knowledge isn't our only gift, Stone continued. The Guardian has shown us that other stars like it exist throughout the galaxy. Ancient guardians, sleeping and waiting. Not as weapons, but as protectors of all life. A murmur ran through the gathered representatives. The Guardians' thoughts touched their minds gently, showing them images of other stars, other Guardians, waiting to help guide the galaxy toward a better future. Admiral West stood up. As the former military commander of the Empire, I propose the formation of a new galactic council, not built on conquest or fear, but on mutual respect and shared wisdom. Earth has shown us a better way. The assembly erupted in agreement. One by one, representatives from different worlds stood to pledge their support. In the depths of Project Helios, Dr. Wells smiled as she watched the proceedings. The ancient control room hummed with peaceful energy as the Guardian's consciousness touched each mind in the assembly, sharing feelings of hope and unity. Our ancestors would be proud, her assistant said quietly. They knew this day would come, Wells replied. That's why they left us the Guardian. Not to conquer, but to unite. Back in the assembly hall, Stone raised his hands for quiet. Let this day be remembered not as the end of the Empire, but as the beginning of something greater. Together, we will explore the stars not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals. The Guardian's patterns shifted into a brilliant display of light and energy, a celebration of this new beginning. Its vast form, once hidden within a seemingly ordinary star, now stood as a symbol of hope for the entire galaxy. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, not through force or fear, but through patience and wisdom. The age of empire was over. The age of unity had begun. And somewhere, in the depths of space, other guardians began to stir, ready to help guide this new civilization toward its bright future.